dread has spread throughout the campus, and as you step through the portal, all 4 of you materializing at the same time, you notice that the usual hustle and bustle of campus is, well, reduced. There seems to be only a handful of students that have come back for this year. Well, that was quite the campaign we just had. We just finished 4 years of Strixhaven in 12 hours of sheer madness. That was quite the pace. How do you feel after that?
We needed more time.
Yeah, you always need a little
Way
more time.
more time.
It was like mentally exhausting. I mean, at some points, and not in a bad way, but it was just like I was looking at my notes from the last game, and usually there's a bunch of notes. This time it was purely initiative order, and that's it. There's nothing else.
Yeah, that was pretty intense. Certainly been a long time since we've had a player go down.
Yeah. Why don't we start at the beginning though? How did that first session feel when you came out and you were kind of figuring out how to play your characters and trying to get to know the students and faculty really quickly? What were your first takeaways from that first episode?
What do you think, Bev?
I wish we had more time. Because I had it's my first caster, so I had done a whole bunch of work into my backstory to why she's a caster and her family. She comes from the whole race of being Kalashtar and why that made sense as a Lorehold mage and how that tied into her family. But then everybody else had their backstory, so it was we were trying to get to know them. But then we're fresh on this amazing magical campus and tried to work in a bunch of what I knew. I wanted to kind of flex about what I knew about the MTG lore. Dad.
He seems to be unconscious. What? No,
you
no,
can't tell
we're
Mom.
still
You
in
can't tell Mom.
Witherbloom.
Dad, you can't tell Mom. You can't. She's gonna. Can you just? I take out my retainer. Dad, I'm gonna need you to listen real good here.
And for you, Andrew, starting off with a cleric.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I had played a cleric once as one-shots kind of thing online, but it was, it felt nice and easy. I felt like I slipped into the character pretty well. I kind of created it around with my limitations in mind as well. And it was nice kind of starting at the lower levels and slowly ramping up, so we got to at least kind of get a feel for what the character was, at least for 3 hours before we scrapped it and jumped up to 2 levels kind of thing. So
Totally.
but that was fun. I enjoyed. I really liked the level jumps quickly actually because you just got to experience all that the characters had to offer.
Totally.
In a quick way.
And kind of cycling back to what Bev was saying, like Magic the Gathering, this is the first time that Strixhaven introduces a full campaign setting into, or rather a story into Dungeons and Dragons, and you see Wizards of the Coast pushing their 2 big properties together. You've played Magic a lot, Bev, and Andrew, not really at all.
Nope. Yeah, it was weird because you've got people who've been, it's funny being in a Magic the Gathering college setting when I have 0 experience in either. So that was kind of interesting. Mm-hmm. But I've watched Revenge of the Nerds a million times. So that's
But as far as Minotaurs go, what made you decide to go Minotaur? I was surprised by that. I was wait, we can do that.
Because of, initially because of, I picked the Peace Domain Cleric. I wanted to pick something kind of monstrous to balance it out a little bit. So awesome. I thought it would be funny to do it that way.
Yeah, I mean, the fast pace of the campaign, we went from year 1 in 3 hours to year 2 in 3, going from kind of getting your feet wet in the bog and figuring out the aquifer to year 2 where more things were coming about, and year 3, the ball, the Magister's Ball too, right? And those first 3 years kind of all trying to set up for the finale of who's this Margaxor figure and why is he messing with us?
Yeah, and I wish we could have had time to get around the campus a bit more. Like, it made sense that we were, between the two colleges, but we didn't get to check out, like, sort of where the Quandrix was at and where the...
Yeah, Quandrix got left far
Yeah.
behind their fractal patterns.
Fuck out of here, math nerds.
Benzodran did take a couple Quandrix
Looks like-
courses. He
yep.
did, yeah. I did take a couple Quandrix courses. It never amounted to anything, but
I mean, it helps with the growing
fun.
some of your side business. So
Yeah.
why don't you get into that a little bit with Erzma Talk?
well, I mean,
I'm so mad that I...
it started off as like a funny joke of just being kind of like because he's a peaceful hippie kind of guy, of him just being that kind of stoner dude on campus. And I didn't realize that Sam decided to bring in the NPC and have us start a complete, like, I don't want to say a
bromance.
Drug empire either, but there was definitely someone on campus who was way more into the material components than I initially was, and it was great because it made that little storyline start to like kind of spiral. I mean, it wasn't in my control. I mean, it was partially in my control,
you
but
push which ones you're going to
yeah,
go to.
but it was definitely like, okay, yeah, we've been doing this for a couple of years now at this point, and Erzma Talk. Man, I lost my girlfriend and my business partner at the end there. That was a tough
pretty
one.
rough.
Yeah,
It's a
that was
rough,
like the
rough
first
ride.
time that I was like, oh, maybe it's a good thing that I questioned his motivations early on and somehow had all of my memories of him completely erased. But I felt a little left out until that point. It's like, damn it.
This is why you keep really high-powered scrolls around, just to mess with people's minds when they get too close to your drug empire. I mean, material component
business. Yes, yeah. I mean, they're all natural
It wouldn't
too,
be college
mostly.
without the material components.
I mean, that's what I hear.
Yeah.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah, speaking of things like that, like how did you find like the sports arena when we did Mage Tower and getting that like rapid fire like stadium full of Strixhaven students?
I would have liked for it to be longer so that I could have, like, because I pulled some pretty cool spells to be able to, because I was still in the evocation school for that, so I had lots of cool stuff kind of banked for that, but I didn't really, I was rolling so terribly that I didn't actually get to play my character, which is very on brand for my soul, apparently.
There's a lot when you're trying to condense like easily like 100 hours worth of content down into 12.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
You
So what
really
was
have to pick
that?
and choose.
What was that like for you? Because like it's Wizards of the Coast, two main things. The book is the size of a full D&D player's handbook. How do you condense all of that into 12 hours? Like, what does that even look like? What?
Thankfully, like Strixhaven, the way it was designed is that the 4 years can be condensed into one episode, and then you can, or like a one shot. Typically, one shots are like 5 to 6 hours, though. So like, there's still stuff to cut out, and trying to lay all the pieces you need so that it connects is also difficult because the one shots are like, oh, it's just you're just having one at it. We don't need to worry about any of those pieces that you lay down. So trying to make it a story that's worth telling and keep the pieces and keep it true to the story of the book, difficult, but not impossible. So I just was like, what's memorable in here? What are the NPCs after my first read through that I was like, oh, I really like this person, or oh, that stands out to me, or why did they do this?
My name's Javanesh.
Javanish, yes.
Yes. I mean, I know I looked very tall, and you see that he's as tall as the other professor. You can refer to me as Nora. I'll be here to help you settle in. My name's Rosie Mippenbab. And who are you?
So like originally the first boss you're supposed to face is a giant scorpion in the aquifer instead of the way I rewrote it. Because in the random encounters,
Dodie.
yeah, Dottie is one of those things.
The water's rippling, and it's not from movements around you. Something is splashing around down there. As out of the water, splashing up onto the surface, top hat and monocle.
Guys, get Dottie!
Now quadrupedal
Whoa.
is Dottie.
Dottie?
Dottie?
Dottie was different
Bursts
Dottie.
out,
Kirsty, you're mini!
roars at you, Roll initiative.
Oh.
One of them is like you encounter a basilisk in the hallways with a top hat and a monocle. I'm like, that's amazing. We need to incorporate this more. And giant scorpion's really boring. So here, we're going to put this in here and make that more exciting for everyone.
Yeah.
And
That was a good
Well, that's
project.
really clever because like having familiars is like a huge component in the Strixhaven
yeah.
lore. So that I thought that wove together really nicely because otherwise I don't think we really got to explore
Yeah,
the
I
whole.
was-
Yeah, you
skipped
kind of
over.
we touched on it in the second year.
Yeah.
Like you got your rooms, which were super cool, and then we started to talk about mascots and stuff, but
Yeah.
there wasn't enough time.
The
read-
lead up to the Magistrix Ball, there's the whole like there's mascots that you have to go and collect. Am I right?
There's
like
a few
little-
times throughout the
Yeah.
thing.
It's like in Legend
Someone
of
starts
Korra.
up like Mowenthorn, the treant guy,
the dryad guy or whatever he
person.
is?
Yeah.
That was
They start up an
Melon
illicit breeding program for the pest mascot, and like this professor no, detention.
I wish I had. I was reading the stat block for my spirit mascot, and I wish I had made more of an attempt at bringing that into the game because, man, that guy he's got a really good slam attack and is like very melee focused, but it would have been actually like quite helpful in some spots. But you only got 12 hours. We can't hit all the spots on the drive.
Well, and I love for the Magister's Ball as well, like, I was so caught up in the RP that I completely forgot to explain why she was dressed as a vampire trying to get to the ball because she was trying to be like, hey, Professor Valentine, you're a vampire, look how vampire-y I can get. So everyone's like, oh, wow, like, what's Karen? little off-brand there. But yeah, is there something like that you regret we didn't get to or would have loved to explore more?
I mean, the way it all laid out was fine. I wish we had a little bit more time for Mage Tower as well. Like that we kind of rushed
It
through
seemed
it.
real like that. That was the game.
That was when we had the thunderstorm that interrupted everything and
that was
kind
crazy.
of messed up my timing on things.
I'm casting dancing lights and trying to pull in the different colors of mana so that all the different houses are represented as I am trying to prepare for the day that I get to show off my amazing skills of control of this thunder and lightning and wind, and I'm trying to speak to it as I whirl it around the room.
Make an Arcana check.
An Arcana check.
And Sapphire raising up his afro, looking like it's been electrocuted many times in his life, as he points towards you.
22.
We'll be back.
Sorry.
If you were inside or outside in it, it was hard to miss the rainstorm that walloped the lower mainland this afternoon.
Initially, we were supposed to always do the exams before the break, and that only happened in the third episode.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to keep on track because you want to be able to take your players down the story path, but also like leave them that room to grow and have that role play time to explore their characters a little bit, get into shenanigans, and have that bit of fun.
Yeah.
Because otherwise it's just like, oh, next thing, where are we going? So yeah, I think that I really enjoyed the Dean Tullis fight. I think that worked really well. Everyone like catching up, Gif Gallon finding like that special like a wand scepter that helps like
Boop,
control
boop,
things. Yeah.
Yeah.
Turn them off. It's
Yeah,
like an off switch.
off.
Done.
That was a lot of fun. She dunked pretty hard, and then when you realized that she was being controlled, holding back, and then bringing her back to life as well, so that she
Banished.
Yeah, you got sent to
Banish
detention.
me.
It's so. Where in the Strixhaven book is there jam and crackers in detention? So I was like, that was
me.
like,
Yeah. Like,
oh, it's such an oddly wholesome time.
Because like you're in detention, but like what if you get hungry and like you're not meant to like starve there? It's not like
Yeah.
cruel treatment.
Like when I was a teacher, that's like
make them last. Don't even.
Yeah.
we never had detention so much, but like I always had snacks. Like detention rocked. Like,
Totally. Yeah, and then all that leading up to like the big finale and like just the stress of that too. Like that was.
Woof.
I watched the clips that you put in Twitch, but like you can really like see it in my face. I'm just like, oh my god! But it really felt just like, dire.
I know my makeup was designed to kind of look a little scowly, but oh man, like the whole time I'm just like,
It's been a while since I was like that emotionally attached to an outcome too.
Yeah. It was a good one.
Getting through that, like going into leading up into the break and making that choice of like splitting the party and then not getting the result that maybe you would have liked, but what came about, because what you didn't know is that if you had all chosen one side or the other, it would have given you a buff, it would have debuffed the boss fight. So
Damn it, Livingston!
It was the right choice. Like
I figured something was going to happen.
Like I designed it to be difficult. Like there was things that people wanted on both sides, whether it was love interest with Greta or Professor Zaphai, who was like central in keeping Giftgallen's power level like under control and controlling the storms and protecting the village. So like it was designed to be that. But that's not really a choice that's made in the book.
But they would have evaporated.
Either. That's something that I added to add a little more stakes to the fight.
I mean, props to Chris too for like, you know,
sticking true to his RP.
Yeah,
He's really good for that. He does that as, you know, even like in Ready to Roll, dropping down that well where he's like, I know as Chris that I can't do this, but it's absolutely what Alani would do.
And it wasn't like a lawful stupid moment either where you're like, this is what my character would do. And it was just like, it made sense at the time. Yeah, for sure. And that was probably the hardest part of the whole campaign, was that one scene when we're trying to decide which way to go. Like Andrew was stressing hard.
Yeah.
Like, I was just like, oh man.
Well, and it's hard because like as me, like I would have done what Kara did, but also I was sitting on this secret that under Valentin she had switched wizarding schools to necromancy, and she was now a secret necromancer.
I remember seeing you like looking at your wizard pages, looking up necromancy
I know.
spells.
Did you like my little cover story?
Yeah, but I didn't. I'm just like, I was like, what is this? And then I'm
an
like,
actor. But then also like now that she's much more comfortable with death, like first year Kara wouldn't have let Giftgallen go off into the sunset by himself, absolutely not. But now that she's far more acclimatized to and much less fearful of death, but I'm sad I didn't get to resurrect Giftgallen and as an enemy dead. I feel like I didn't get to use my necromancy powers as much as I did, but it was like once the timer was set, I was like, okay, well now
the timer.
Yeah.
I just gotta like blast this guy as much as I can. I don't have time to sort of hang back and summon and summon and summon, but because of, like all my thralls and like I could have built like a it would have taken 3 or 4 turns, but I could have definitely gotten a nice sizable army for that. But then you can't fireball because then you roast your
Hey, the fireballs are really what took it over the top.
Yes, thank you so much for letting me use group inspiration to re-roll that last thing, because that
and that's like a perfect like DM moment of like, you have to really watch what your players are doing, and if they're overly stressed out, if they're not having fun, or they're really disappointed in something, if there's a way you can like change that or make it more interesting or ensure that they have a little bit more fun, that's a DM's job too, is that you gotta watch out for your players and like ensure that like the role play is balanced. Otherwise, it's not fun and you're just stressed and you leave the feeling like you could have done more and it was terrible.
Well, it's not us against you, right?
Exactly.
Or you against us. Although sometimes it is, but I mean,
like it a little bit there, but in a fun way.
That's the thing about D&D, is that it's the grand scheme of things, it's like collaborative, right? And I hear stories about like just DMs out to kill their characters and players just like going out of their way to mess with the DM, and I'm like, that's not a table I want to sit at.
No. I've been at the table with people like that.
Same with like dialing back, like when
Nikosa
was going to cast her first immolation, not realizing that you can't cast 2 spells in a turn, was going to use that heal. That would have, if she hadn't done that, that would have been it for you guys. And we would have had like an hour left on the table to go, okay, this is great. But also, like, would that have been satisfying? No, a mistake in the moment versus like what the character would actually do. No, that deserves a little dial back and like, okay, let's look at this again and continue going from there.
Well, and you really are a master of that. Like I always, like when I was sort of brushing off the rust on my D&D skills, like you created such a nutritious substrate for like that, because you're guiding and you're
grow.
helpful, but also you're very in tune with like what's happening with your players. So I think you always have done and did a very good job on this campaign.
Well, thank you. It's taken a lot of like hard like lessons sometimes as a DM, like when you're just starting out to when you're really getting a grasp of things, and then you realize that you've got to really maintain like the whole table, not just your side, and like it's taken time. And I've still got lots to learn, but I'm glad that we got to experience this together.
I don't think you got much left to learn at this point.
No.
Figured it
my
all
cap
out at
to
this
you.
point. Especially like the crash course of one shot or not doesn't leave a lot of room for messing up kind of thing. So cheers to you.
But yeah, 2 minutes left on that timer when you.
It was only 2 minutes?
2 minutes and 9 seconds. I
Remember you
believe.
mentioned
What
something
would've
about the timer? Yeah,
So
what
yeah,
would happen?
I made the mistake of writing the happy ending and then writing the really horrible ending, and then just sitting with the horrible ending. So like, oh no. So what would have happened is that if the timer had run out, the ritual would have completed. All of your life forces would have drained away. I would have rolled something like 20 d6, but like nobody would have survived that. And then you might have survived. Actually,
down to like 30 hit-
Nikosa might have survived.
I was down to like, she had
She's like 80 hit points
Yeah, I
left.
was down to like
She would have been
30.
close.
She has 6 limbs.
Hey, that's the first time.
I think I was down to 6
First
HP at one point.
Yeah,
I think.
it
But
was
very close.
touch and go like this all the time. Gifgalin's death was brutal, but yeah, all the life force would have been drained out of everyone. The whole planet I was going to split into 5 pieces.
Oh, yeah.
5 colors of
I was gonna say, one for each.
And then the Foundry Dragons would have awoken from their slumber
Oh, great.
and
That's what
used
you want.
their life force to preserve each of the chunks so that anyone that did happen to survive would still live.
They sacrificed themselves.
They would sacrifice themselves to do that.
Monocolored
And
decks
then
are born.
Margaxor would arise to like godhood and be immortal, and it would be horrible. And so like I'd have like all like the portals opening to different parts of the multiverse, and these tendrils like extending through them.
Ooh, like a reverse end game kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like, but the bad seeps out as opposed to all the
Exactly.
good coming in. Yeesh. That's terrible.
Yeah, I was sitting with that for a while.
We did
I
it.
should have wrote
We
the
did it.
happy ending, but you
We saved
did.
the
Yeah, you did
universe.
it. Close call.
Yeah. I remember checking when we were just coming back from break, tuning into the stream because I'm just like, oh wait, there's an actual timer ticking down, and then I was like, oh, here we go.
What was chat like? Are you able to see the chat?
I went back and watched through like chat too, and like it was
I
good.
haven't done that yet.
They all wanted us to die. is what
Just
it
like
was.
last week.
Yeah, they
with,
were
with Fern the North. There's a lot. There was
Guys,
a
the
poll
world
going
is dark
on.
enough.
It's all true.
Like,
It's you, Trevor. I know it's you.
There's like
I know
there's
it's
like
you.
70,000 channel points on the line for a TPK, and when that didn't happen, everyone that voted for the party to survive got like a huge boost in channel points. So that was fun. Yeah, it was.
You're
I
welcome.
didn't know that until after the fact though, because like when you're running the game, like there's no time for that. Like I've got 1,000 stat blocks going on for like the 2 big bosses,
yeah, dude.
all the little things controlling you guys, the layer actions that are happening, the initiative count, legendary actions happening in between the other initiative counts, all of that going on. And like those have different numbers too. So like doing something really big might take all 3 of my legendary actions, or doing something little, like just a little burst of a beam, might be 1. So like all of those things you have to keep track of while combat's going. And I'm feeling the pressure too, because I don't want to eat up your time. I'm trying to get my turns done as quickly as possible so that it gives you a fair chance. Because
Yeah.
my gosh, that was close. When you did, it was he had 13 health left at the end and 16 fire damage from that immolation. Like so close.
Yeah, I almost feel bad.
And I just had
because
nothing left. Like I burned my spell slot, so no more counter spells. I had no more threat
I
points.
was counterspelling everything.
Oh, hey, you're real close by. As you go to cast, the chat has redeemed a point of threat as I cast Counterspell on you.
Oh, chat! Come on!
this is serious.
Are killing me, literally killing me.
Yeah.
So no healing?
No healing.
Yeah, I had run out, like after that last fireball, I was out of spell slots, and it's my first caster, so I was like,
You were out of spell slots?
what do I do? Do I like poke it with my staff? but then it's the Staff of Withering and Blooming, so then I could heal myself, but I was actually doing okay for HP, so I felt really like naked and vulnerable.
I just wish, yeah, there's just too many things to do in one round of action kind of thing. I'm just like, I need to do this and I need to do that, and I got to do this, but I can only do one thing,
Yeah.
so figure it
It would have
out.
been fine if chat didn't redeem to burn another spell slot.
Oh, they were
on it.
They were all over that. They were planning it out just to roast us.
Whatever.
That's fine. Yeah, we
You
still
tried
won.
your
So
best.
Yeah,
But we survived.
that clay golem was vulnerable to thunder damage and to bludgeoning damage. So you guys were doing double on that right off the bat.
Oh yeah, because he got pushed into that storm circle thing too, and I was smacking
Yeah.
him with my thing. Good.
And
good.
as a
good.
group, you did over 400 points of damage to that whole thing. So like 200 to the shield, 100 to Margaxor, a little touch on the Demigod.
Nice.
That wall of fire, that was a big move to like free you up so that you could get going again.
I couldn't
You're
get up there. I
welcome.
couldn't get up there. I was trying.
I know,
I was trying to do.
that's what I was doing,
trying to
like,
get up
isolate
there
the healer,
and,
keep
and I
them
was-
away.
What, they have 5 guys surrounding me at once. Kind
I'm
of thing
really
there?
relieved to hear you say that because I was like, is this the best thing? It's
perfect.
I can summon more zombies or I can bail you out. And so I was like,
I appreciate
"Ooh."
the bailout.
No.
Yeah, and then I rolled that super terrible Spirit Guardians damage roll.
Yeah, that
where
was rough.
It was like, I was like 2 ones and a 2 for damage, and like I could have just cleared them all out in one shot if I had had a good roll, but it was just like,
Meanwhile,
Welcome
it was
to
just like,
my life.
don't.
Meanwhile, going like back to my first one shot or not, when I cast Spirit Guardians on you as a group, I was like 6, 7, 8 for damage.
That just came up as a year in,
Yeah.
I think like a
Yeah,
year
yeah.
ago was on Facebook. It showed up. I was like, wow,
What was
that
your first
a
one?
year.
It was the Raven and the Bear, the
Vikings one.
Viking one, yeah. Mhm. Well, final thoughts. How did you think it was kind of like compared to Magic and to D&D? How did you feel like the two crossed, or did it only feel like D&D, or?
I feel like I'm really biased because I'm reasonably well versed in the lore for MTG. So for me, the slip into half D&D it felt very seamless, and I felt really familiar with like the NPs that we came across and magic mechanics and the universe and the lore and the multiverse and but I'm curious to see if that's the case for you guys.
I mean, I don't really, like I say, I tried to look up as much and kind of absorb as much of the Magic the Gathering lore as I could beforehand, but there's only, I didn't realize there was so much. Yeah, I was really surprised. I'm like, well, all these, it just goes back hundreds of years, and everyone has a little story, and they're all interconnected. But I mean, I feel like the combo of MTG and D&D is very natural. Like they're just different mechanical systems doing the same thing. It's fantasy, it's magic and monsters and swords and sorcery, and yeah, I felt it all slipped really well together. So I mean, like props to you too for making it so smooth. So.
Couldn't do it without you. The role play I was getting from the energy level too. Like every game, everyone came to the table with such good energy, and I never saw it dip from you guys. So that helps me too as a DM, is that I can play off that and go, oh, you're interested in this. Okay, let's do more of that.
I think we're almost too energetic sometimes. It's like, wait, guys, come on, we gotta tone this down. Sam's trying to tell us something. We're just like blah 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 blah.
No, yeah, it's what I live for. Like I play D&D like 3-4 times a week on my own, and like I either join in with another group, or I'm on on through Discord finding people to play with, because
wanna do that.
I'm just trying to hone my craft. But yeah,
Curious to hear that.
congratulations to finishing a campaign.
And to you.
To making it to level 10, to defeating Margaxor and pushing back the evil in the world. To the massive statues of you erected next to the founder dragons at Strixhaven.
Nice.
To making your parents proud, and to the search for Greta. When we'll get to that. We'll
Maybe one
make
day.
a high level campaign or one shot for
Maybe
that.
one day. Maybe one day. Yeah.
Yeah, so feel free to check us out on YouTube on Questline. You can catch up on the entire series of Strixhaven. And remember, stay filthy.